Hey, today I wanted to open up and take a look at the Final Fantasy Ultimania Archive. This is Volume 1. It covers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I'm really excited to take a look through this thing. Volume 2 is on the way and 3 is coming out soon. Final Fantasy is one of the... It's in my top 3 of game worlds that I like to live in. So I'm excited to take a look at this thing. So I'm gonna peel it open and see what we got. I found this in Target, of all places. That to me seemed fairly unlikely to find something like this. You would think GameStop, Barnes & Nobles, but nope. Saw this guy hanging out at a Target. And I was super excited, not gonna lie. So, here we go. It's a black page. It's so epic. Epic, epic, epic. So I'm obviously not going to go through every single page, but we'll get a feel for what we're looking at. Bunch of quotes from the intros and the games. So it's got our content. So we got art, the story, characters, world, monsters, extra content, sprite materials, battle planning, early planning. So it looks like there's going to be a lot of stuff that went into making each of these games, which is kind of neat. Oh, we got the original artwork from the Japanese versions, so this is cool. Oh, and it's got all the different makings. So we got the PlayStation Anthology, all that fun stuff. So that's pretty cool. And we got the original artwork, which is going to be awesome. Characters. This is one of the games that got me thinking about this channel, was Final Fantasy 1. I watched my kid playing things like Dark Souls and all these other modern games, and they don't really realize where a lot of these things and concepts and ideas came from. And I really wanted to take them back through that, force them to sit through some of the challenging things. I like all these black and white images. Alright, so... Oh, nice. So this is pretty nifty. It's got all the different backgrounds, all the map lists, magic settings. That's pretty cool. Let's flip ahead. We'll skip ahead to Final Fantasy 2. Some more original sketch artwork. Now, Final Fantasy 2, I didn't play, obviously, when it came out. Not a big Japanese speaker and or reader, so I did not get a chance to touch that until somebody did a translation on one of the Nintendo emulators a while back. And then again, I revisited it on the PlayStation Portable, and it was... Final Fantasy 2 is unique in the fact that the more you got beat up, the stronger you became. So it was pretty easy to outlevel the areas you were in just by getting the crap kicked out of you and then going back and healing and doing it all over again. So Final Fantasy 3, this one I have not touched. In all honesty, and being a fan of the world, I feel sad about that. I do own it on my PC. I just haven't played it yet, which is tragic. Final Fantasy 1 was one of the first games I had ever played. So that was that, Final Fantasy and Phantasy Star, so that's interesting. I had a Sega Master System, and my buddy had a regular Nintendo. So Final Fantasy 4, which was Final Fantasy 2 stateside, I did play that. I enjoyed that, and it's funny when they talk about Final Fantasy 7, spoiler alert, when a certain character dies and it's a permanent death, they herald that as like game-changing and gaming cinematic history, and it's never been done, except for pretty much every Final Fantasy game before that. And Final Fantasy 4 or 2 was one of the first ones that I remember going through, and you have your character deaths that or death that was permanent. Yeah. And not going to spoil who, but I may be on the page or not. You Spoony Bard. I think that was a translation error, but it was still funny as hell. So Final Fantasy V, I did play that. I enjoyed that. I actually got that for the Super Famicom, and we honestly, we couldn't wait, didn't want to wait, didn't know if it was coming out, and we muddled through without translations, and then we had a guy that used to send us translated versions of texts, or we could send him an email or a letter. Like, this was back we were sending letters, and we would get a letter with some translations on parts that we get stuck on, so sometimes we wouldn't get to play this for weeks at a time. But we leveled the shit out of our characters. And then, coming up to the end of the book, one of my personal favorites was Final Fantasy VI, which is Final Fantasy III here. Had a picture of Mog on the cover holding his sword. And this one for me was the first one where the story really took off and the characters were more diverse in what they could and couldn't do. And I've played this one, I don't know how many times. It's one of my favorites. The soundtrack is amazing. Anytime I can find pieces that are orchestrated, I buy them. Because, yeah. And maybe it was the time of my life where things were happening, going on, but it resonated with me. And then obviously, you know, the games that came after that started changing and becoming something different. So you can see through these pictures, this book is pretty freaking cool. I'm going to spend some time going over it. And I'm going to thoroughly enjoy myself learning where these things came from. Yeah. Oh, nice. Got all the sprites, all the animations. Anyway, so this book is pretty freaking awesome. If you're a Final Fantasy fan, I would recommend picking it up. I'm going to come back in a couple weeks when my next one gets here, and then the third one I think comes out in June, if I was reading the release dates right. So I'll flip through those too. So thank you for taking a look, and we'll be back again.